What would you do if the one place that held your heart's deepest memories was shattered by a stranger's reckless hand? The ranch stretched wide under the Wyoming sky, a patchwork of golden fields and whispering pines that had been my family's refuge for generations. At its heart stood a simple wooden bench, weathered but sturdy, overlooking a creek where my dad used to fish with me. After his passing 2 years ago, I'd carved his name Elliot James Harper into the backrest, a quiet tribute to a man who taught me to find peace in the land. That bench was sacred, a tether to him, until Karen Mitchell blew into our small town of Elkwood like a storm no one saw coming. She was new, loud, and carried an air of entitlement that clashed with our tight-knit community's humility. She'd moved into the old Peterson ranch a mile down the road, a sprawling property she'd bought with city money and no love for the land. From the start, she rubbed people the wrong way, complaining about the smell of hay, the noise of cattle, the dust on her shiny SUV. But I didn't care much about her antics. Not until that Saturday morning. I'd ridden out to the bench at dawn, thermos of coffee in hand, expecting to sit and talk to Dad like I always did. Instead, I found the bench splintered, its legs snapped, and red spray paint scrawled across the carving of his name. City rules now. My breath caught, rage and grief colliding in my chest. The creek's gentle gurgle mocked the violence of the scene. I knew it was her. Karen had been mouthing off at the town meeting about modernizing the ranches, and this felt like her twisted manifesto. I called Sheriff Dawson, a grizzled man who'd known my dad since they were kids. He arrived with Deputy Clara, a sharp-eyed woman who'd grown up on the neighboring ranch. They surveyed the damage, Clara's jaw tightening as she traced the paint with a gloved finger. "This is personal," she said. "We'll talk to her." I nodded, swallowing the urge to confront Karen myself. I wanted justice, not a fight. Karen's ranch was a gaudy contrast to ours: new fences, a pretentious gate, and a lawn that looked like it belonged in a suburb, not Wyoming. When we pulled up, she was lounging on her porch, sipping something neon from a glass. "What's this about?" she demanded, her voice sharp as barbed wire. Sheriff Dawson laid out the evidence. Paint cans in her trash, matching the red on the bench, and tire tracks from her SUV near our property line. Karen scoffed, her eyes glinting with defiance. "You can't prove anything. That bench was an eyesore anyway." Her words hit like a slap. I stepped forward, fists clenched, but Clara put a hand on my shoulder. "Let the law handle it, Tessa," she whispered. I backed off, but the fire in my gut didn't cool. Karen was arrested for vandalism and destruction of property. The town buzzed with gossip, some calling it a prank gone wrong, others saying she'd always been trouble. I didn't care about her motives. I just wanted her to pay. The trial was quick. Elkwood's courthouse was small, the air thick with the scent of old wood and tension. Karen's lawyer argued she was stressed from adjusting to rural life, painting her as some misunderstood city girl. But the evidence was ironclad, and Judge Marlowe, a no-nonsense woman with deep roots in Elkwood, wasn't swayed. "Miss Mitchell," she said, her voice like gravel, "you desecrated a memorial. You'll serve 6 months of community service at the county rehab center, working the land you disrespected." Karen's face crumpled, but I felt no pity. Not yet. The rehab center was a sprawling farm where addicts and minor offenders worked to rebuild their lives through labor. Karen was assigned to repair fences, plant crops, and ironically maintain memorials for families who'd lost loved ones. I avoided the place, not wanting to see her face. But one day, about a month into her sentence, Clara called me. "Tessa, you need to come down here. It's about Karen." I arrived expecting trouble, maybe another outburst. Instead, I found Karen kneeling by a freshly painted bench, not mine, but one for a veteran named Samuel, whose plaque had rusted over. She was scrubbing it with care, her hands dirty, her face streaked with sweat. Clara stood nearby, arms crossed. "She's been at it for hours," she said. "Asked to fix this one herself." I didn't know what to make of it. Karen looked up, her eyes meeting mine for a fleeting second. No defiance, just exhaustion. I turned away, confused, and left without a word. But Clara's call wasn't the end. Over the weeks, I heard whispers. Karen was planting wildflowers by the memorials, staying late to weed the paths, even carving new plaques for families who couldn't afford them. It didn't erase what she'd done, but it stirred something in me. Doubt, maybe, or curiosity. Then came the twist I never saw coming. One evening, as I rode past the rehab center, I saw a boy no more than 10 sitting by Samuel's bench, clutching a photo. Karen was beside him, listening as he spoke. I slowed my horse, close enough to hear but not be seen. "He was my grandpa," the boy said, voice trembling. "Mom says he's gone, but I feel him here." Karen nodded, her voice soft. "I lost someone too. That's why I messed up, kid." I was angry at the world. The boy looked at her wide-eyed. "You're fixing it now, though." She smiled, a real smile, and handed him a wildflower. "Trying to." I rode home, my mind a tangle. Karen had a story? A loss? I'd never considered it. I painted her as a villain, but maybe she was just broken, like me. The next day, I went to the rehab center and asked Clara about her. "Karen's brother died last year," Clara said. "Car accident. She moved here to escape the memories. But it didn't work." She lashed out. That bench, it wasn't just vandalism. It was her screaming at her own pain. I didn't know how to feel. Part of me still hated her for what she'd done to Dad's bench. But another part saw a woman trying to claw her way back from grief. I visited the rehab center again, this time bringing a sketch of Dad's bench. I found Karen in the garden. Planting Karen flowers, ironic, delicate blooms that thrived in harsh soil. I handed her the sketch. "This is what you broke," I said, my voice steady but not cruel. "If you're fixing things, start here." She took the sketch, her hands trembling. "I'm sorry, Tessa," she said, the first time she'd used my name. "I didn't know what it meant to you." I nodded, not ready to forgive but willing to let her try. Over the next months, Karen rebuilt the bench. She sanded the wood, recarved Dad's name, and painted it with care. She even planted Karen flowers around it, their soft purple petals a quiet apology. I watched her work, torn between resentment and something softer. The day she finished, I sat on the bench, the creek murmuring like it used to. Karen stood nearby, nervous. "It's not enough," she said. "I know that." I looked at her, seeing not the woman who'd vandalized my dad's memory, but someone who'd faced her own demons and chosen to rebuild. "It's a start," I said. She nodded, tears in her eyes, and walked away. But the story doesn't end with redemption. A week later, I got a call from Clara. Karen had been found unresponsive in her bunk at the rehab center. Overdose. She'd been clean for months, but the weight of her brother's death, the guilt of her actions, had pulled her under. The wildflowers by the bench wilted that week, as if they knew. I sat there, staring at Dad's name, feeling the ache of loss all over again, not just for him, but for her. She tried to make things right, but some wounds cut too deep to heal. The ranch is quiet now. The bench stands strong, surrounded by Karen flowers that bloom despite the pain they've witnessed. I don't forgive her, not fully, but I understand her. And that's the bitterest part of all, knowing that even the worst of us are human, broken, and reaching for something we can't always find. ND.